Why did you choose to be in the documentary?
The reason I decided to do the documentary was because I was told the program was about diversity, about showing how normal Muslims were, and how when people say Muslims are like this, Muslims are like that, that you give them a choice of how many Muslims there are, and say, well, which Muslims are you referring to? The Arabs, the Nigerian, the converts, the liberal, the religious? That we're diverse. So that's what the program was going to be about. And the other reason, on a personal level, I felt that the media never showed independent, feisty, resourceful women who were living, Muslim women, who were living lives on their own terms, with or without a man, and had opinions. And I wanted to give voice to that.
Okay. And what did you think of the documentary? Were you happy with the end result?
I was really disappointed with the end result. After 10 days of footage, which I can't discuss because I'm under contract not to discuss anything that was done behind the scenes. I'm not allowed to talk about that. But I can tell you that very wide subjects were covered, and interviews upon interviews were taken by all the people, all the 10 people on the show. And in the end, it became the Abdul Haq show, with Nabil talking about race. So it became about radicalization, it became about fundamentalism, and Mehreen was focused on placating Abdul Haq. So they became the three main players. That's what the show became about. And the 7 people behind the scenes, we were just pawns to the rest of the thing. Everything that we discussed and covered did not get shown.
And do you think the people that weren't shown very much were fairly represented as people?
I feel the 7 people that weren't shown were not fairly represented. They were not only unfairly represented, but there was a complete distortion of how they were represented. So, for example, Bara, and this is not me disclosing something that was, that I can't, because anybody who Googles Bara can find out for themselves, that he runs a charity where 100% of the money goes to the children living in refugee camps in Syria, and that he gets them to make drawings, uses them as postcards, which he sells, and that goes to help educate them, that goes to help hospitals, and the fantastic work he's doing. He was just shown, the only bit of representation he got was that he naively wanted to hug an EDL supporter. And then we had Nabil insisting what he knew was the only way of thinking. And that's what dominated the show. And so that's Bara. Mani has a career in media already. He is an entertainer. He's a musician, he's a singer, he's a host to the top events that take place. None of that was shown, but what was shown, which is the distortion that I really object to, he was shown as a mummy's boy and possibly a closet gay. Because all they showed was him hugging Farhan. They were good friends. There was so much that was done in that just didn't get shown. So this is how they were shown. Sabah, 76-year-old woman, 50 years she's been a Muslim. She embodied that. She had so many stories to tell. She had so much to teach. But what was shown was just her getting angry and annoyed that, the race and the fundamentalism. She was objecting to that being the only narrative. By Abdul Haq, by Nabil. And every time she stood up for that and she'd say, stop just talking about that, she kept asking for some space for other people to share, for other people to give their opinions. But these 2 guys dominated. And then that's what they made the show about. It wasn't about anybody else. And she was shown as this white woman who's not black and therefore doesn't know about racism. And she's just, it was just this we were made to be caricatures. There was just this black and white world of really, this is how it is for people, and if you're white, that's how it is. It was complete distortion. Take Zora. Zora is a Cambridge graduate, a very bright girl, very capable girl, very resourceful girl. What did you see? Her getting lost in an argument with Abdul Haq, saying what he thought about Shias, and how much she took that on board about his opinion, and then reacted to him, and was upset because of what he was doing. That's all that was shown. So we were just always about what they were saying and our response to that. And me, you didn't know that I've got 25 years experience in business, as a counselor, in coaching, in training. How much footage was given, how much time was given to me for my opinions. All the times I would walk away and not take part in the discussions, because all it was about fundamentalism and religion, and I would walk away and I would be interviewed for my opinion so that there would be another perspective. None of that was shown. So I'm very disappointed that at the end of the day, that when told this is a BBC Two program, we're not looking to sensationalize it, we're not making it into like a Big Brother thing. We want it to really show the diversity and give Muslims a chance to be seen for who they are. And in the end, what did they do in the second part? We've got Nabil, who says, when in doubt, don't be a dick. Unfortunately, he just wasn't in doubt. So he was constantly a dick, because he didn't question, he didn't doubt, he didn't listen, he didn't ask for anybody else's opinion, nor did Abdul Haq. These guys just preached to us, told us what to do, told us how to think, told us how wrong we were, and when we wanted to speak, shouted us down so we couldn't say anything. So I walked away from that all the time, because why would I speak to someone who's not listening to me, who's only adamant about their point of view, what's right by them, and I've got to just take what they're saying. I'm not interested in that conversation, so I walk away. In the last hour, when he's just taking chunks at Farhan constantly, and this is a guy who's representing himself as having this, care for homeless, etc. And because he bought onions that Farhan was using, it became this horrible situation where we're shouting and screaming at each other. You've taken that footage and you've used that. And all the big important issues, none of those got discussed.
What kind of documentary needs to be made? I mean, how could it have been better?
I think it would have been a better documentary if other people were given the say. There were 10 of us for a reason. They wanted to show diversity. Well, then why focus on fundamentalism? Isn't there enough focus on fundamentalists in the media? Isn't there enough focus on racism in the media? What the fuck did you learn from this show? You didn't learn. You didn't learn. And what hurt me was not that we didn't show anything new to the British public, but that we didn't give any hope and understanding to the Muslims either, because the Muslims would have been watching. We're representing the Muslims, and you made it into a circus. You didn't honor us. You didn't do right by us. And you did not show Muslims like us. You showed Muslims like you want to portray. You put your own narrative on there about race and fundamentalism. All the newspapers focused on Abdul Haq. They didn't know about anybody else. And that was not the purpose of the program. And are the BBC and the production company responsible? Absolutely. Because you decided what the narrative was, you decided how it was going to be edited, and you decided if the onion scene was going to be really important. So that was down to them, not us.
I mean, it sounds like it's a very personal and emotive issue. What do you want to happen next, now that you've got a chance to speak and have your say?
I think what's important to me is that for people to know that wasn't a clear and diverse program giving a good point of view about Muslims. And I don't think it did us any favors. I don't think it helped Muslims. I don't think we were just caricatures. I think it was important for me to say this because despite a gagging order of what I'm allowed to say and not, I'm entitled to an opinion. And I found the end result to be a real shame of all the missed opportunities, for all the ways they could have tied up loose ends, shown the journey for Han when as a result of, you know, owning his sexuality and what the implications of that. There were so many ways of honouring the people that were on there, and they made it into a circus and a zoo. And they did not do right by Muslims.
Naladar, thank you very much for your time here today.